Welcome, everyone. This is a really exciting day for us. We are here to celebrate the first ever virtual Presidents for Entrepreneurship pledge signing, and also one of the largest gatherings of presidents in this new virtual world that we all live in. But one of the things that's very exciting is that we've gathered together people who are sharing inspiration and thought leadership, and none of this happens ever without good leadership. So, of course, we turn to the state of California and two wonderful, amazing leaders that are doing some very innovative work there. So I'd just like to welcome you, Chancellor Oakley, and also Vice Chancellor Weber. You've been longtime friends of NACCE. In fact, when I started working at NACCE almost 7 years ago now, Chancellor Oakley was one of the endorsers of our national conference. So I hadn't met you at the time, but have enjoyed following both of your careers as leaders, as entrepreneurs, and as people that get things done. So we're here today to share with people, not only in California, but people across the United States, and a few people that are tuning in from the UK and around the world that want to learn a little bit more about NACCE and what we're going to do today with this pledge. So I'd like to start with you, Chancellor Oakley, if you might just share a little bit about your story and what brought you to the position that you have of really being the leader of one of the largest educational districts in the world. So maybe if you don't mind, share a little bit about the journey that attracted you to what you do now and how entrepreneurship has been a part of that.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you and to be able to celebrate this convening and this very important topic, particularly right now in the midst of this pandemic. So I'm a product of the California Community Colleges. I wouldn't be here but for California Community College. So, you know, my journey began like many students in our system and throughout the country, which is I came from a family that didn't participate in higher education. I'm the first in my family. I didn't go to college right off the bat. I went to the United States Army, where you learn a little bit about entrepreneurship, but it wasn't until I came back from the military, was raising my family and working, I realized I needed to go back to school in order to do and to participate in the kinds of things that I wanted to participate in. That formal education was an important part of what I was missing. So that's how I got into the community colleges. I happened to attend the Golden West College that opened the door for me to transfer to the University of California, Irvine, and community colleges have been part of my life ever since. And so, you know, entrepreneurship is what has helped me be successful, because part of my journey has been to bring voice to some of the challenges that students face, to help get people into the workforce, help allow people to become entrepreneurs, to build wealth in all sorts of different ways. And in order to do that, you know, I had to work with my team and model the kind of behavior that we wanted to see happening in our colleges and in our communities. So that's still what we do today, as we continue to face challenges, to take on risk. I think risk is such an important part of entrepreneurship. You can't talk about entrepreneurship without talking about your ability to take on risk and the importance of risk. So that's what we do. Unfortunately, I have people like Sheneui who understand how that works.
Thank you for that. And it's always been my belief that one of the best leadership qualities is you surround yourself with people of integrity and people that have an innovative mindset. And Sheneui, I know we had the opportunity to work together a couple of years ago when you were at Long Beach Community College leading some amazing initiatives and introduced us to a number of entrepreneurs that were working on some projects. So perhaps you could share with all of us today, you know, your path and really what led you to higher education and the work that you're doing with entrepreneurship, not only at Long Beach, but what you're doing across the state.
Hi, Becky. It's, you know, I think what I would say is I have the great fortune of being at Long Beach Community College District under Chancellor Oakley's leadership when he was president there. And the lessons learned we have about the importance of economic development and workforce development being, you know, two sides of the coin and very intricately connected. And looking at the programs that we develop and have the opportunities to work on because of Chancellor Oakley's leadership in allowing us to look at and serve not just the employers in our communities, but also the job creators. And we all know that entrepreneurs are really the biggest group of job creators in our country. 66% of net new jobs are created by small businesses. And it's these small businesses that are the backbone of our communities, and we know that and we hear that. And so it's really been a privilege for me to be able to first of all work at Long Beach to launch the Los Angeles Regional Small Business Development Center Network, serving LA, Ventura, Santa Barbara counties when we had the opportunity to apply for that federal grant. And then Chancellor Oakley, at that time, President Oakley, also recognized the importance of participating in growing the entrepreneurial ecosystem regionally and bringing the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program to our college. And that is where I think I cut my teeth on working on the entrepreneur program, understanding the entrepreneur mindset and how critical that is for our students to learn and to also have the opportunity not just to take a job, but also make a job as they look at options and look at developing their future careers. You know, entrepreneurship is also a career, and having that opportunity to combine my experience at in private industry and understanding what businesses need, what employers need, and at the same time to be able to help translate that into helping students learn that and embrace those opportunities. I think it's really something that I very much encourage in my current position as Vice Chancellor of Workforce and Economic Development, that our colleges be able to embrace the entrepreneur mindset, not just for students, but also in how we serve students and how we adapt and how we experiment, are willing to experiment and try new things.
That is so important. And it kind of brings me back to what Chancellor Oakley mentioned about, tolerance for risk. And I think about that a lot too, that, many of us have had to take on probably greater degree of risk because the risk of not doing something is even greater than not taking action. And it's interesting. We all just had an opportunity to hear from Gary Sheneui, who himself is an entrepreneur and has written about the experience of an unlikely entrepreneur in one of the books that we've all read, Who Owns the Ice House, which is bringing me back to Chancellor Oakley, talking about your background as a first generation person who's risen all the way to the top, but has not forgotten what that feels like. And I know a lot of the work that Gary speaks about and that we all lean into is really leading with a sense of empathy. And I would love to hear from you, Chancellor Oakley, if you could maybe share with us, we've come through, or we're not through it, we're in the middle of it, the pandemic, and what did you lean into as a leader with a very large system and complex problems? What were the things that kind of inspired you to keep going and to lead everyone within your orbit, which is a lot of people, to keep taking those steps forward?
Well, I think this question of empathy is very important. We find ourselves as the educators certainly feeling the impacts of the pandemic, but in many ways we're shielded from the impacts that our students face. And we have to keep reminding ourselves about the urgency that our students face. The urgency of day-to-day life, of losing your job, of losing hours, of having your whole family now in your house, trying to figure out how to educate your children while you're trying to accomplish your own education, waiting for the next stimulus check whenever that arrives, waiting for your unemployment check, which may have been, pulled under the rug from you. So we have to remind ourselves that our students are not only going through a lot more than we are as the educators, but also that they are overcoming a lot. And we can't forget that part either. They're practicing entrepreneurship every single day that they wake up, just trying to figure out how to get through the day, how to feed their family, how to juggle the crises that are going to arise that day, how to deal with a bank that has not received the unemployment check yet. You know, those are the challenges that we have to, as the educators, keep reminding ourselves of, and using that as our motivation to do more, to lean in harder, to find more opportunities, to advocate louder for our students. So I think that certainly what has kept me going, thinking about and trying to walk in the shoes of our students. And then also just doing everything that I can and my team can to support our colleges that are really on the front line of dealing with these challenges. But those are some of the things that I think are important. And also trying to position ourselves for what happens when we begin to come out of this pandemic. Mm-hmm. We have to position ourselves and position our students to be there ready to take on the jobs that are being created as we speak. And so we can't dwell on the past too much. We have to always be looking toward the future to figure out where we need to position ourselves and, most importantly, our students, so that they can benefit from whatever emerges as a new economy.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. And it does really resonate with what Gary shared about really creating that new future. And how do we do it? Because, you know, some of the things we don't have enough information right now. Vice Chancellor Weber, I'd love it if you would share with us, maybe from your perspective, leading a lot of workforce initiatives, what are some of those jobs that you see or sort of trends of things? It could be in California or nationally, of areas of the economy and jobs maybe that you see community colleges preparing students for, so that we're sort of getting into a bit of the nitty-gritty of the work to be done, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Prior to the pandemic, we've had some very specific areas that we are starting to focus on, such as technology and you know, advanced transportation and logistics, those kinds of issues that are growing. We know technology obviously is a big focus, you know, given that software runs the world. But you know, with the pandemic, I think it's kind of accelerated those needs. We are seeing that the world is digital, and we have now had to live a very digital life, whether we like it or not. Those areas are going to continue to be big focus. I mean, if you look at looking at the communications, you know, perspective, 5G is an area that is growing. We know that. That's where a lot of the jobs are. Obviously, all of the new technologies like cloud computing, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, data science, and you know, all those related, cybersecurity, these are all big areas. We've seen a huge increase in transportation and logistics, and it's not just the warehousing jobs. There's a lot of technology involved in transportation and logistics, where you know there's a lot of basic digital skills literacy that's needed. And then, of course, you know, we live in a world where we still want stuff. So manufacturing is still going to be a continued need, right? At the end of the day, if you look at just the 5G infrastructure as an example, you're still going to need your traditional trades to build the infrastructure. You're going to still need hardware for that 5G network, which is manufacturing. And then, of course, you'll need the software to run the 5G network. Just as using that as an example. So, you know, thinking forward, those are some of the key areas. And then now we've got this added layer of energy and environmental climate management issues that's really critical, you know, that's surfacing. And so that emphasis is going to create a lot of opportunities in jobs as well for our students. And so those are areas that our colleges really are starting to focus on and really thinking about.
Yeah, it seems so very well aligned with, our new administration in DC, as well, as we're learning about their focus on small business and climate change, everything that you just mentioned. And I think, what both of you as leaders are doing is really looking at this present challenge and gearing up for this unknown future. And it's funny, our fireside chats go by so fast because they're just, we could talk for a long time. But I'd love to hear from you, Sheneui, just very briefly, because I'd love for Chancellor Oakley to kind of close us out as we begin to celebrate our 12 presidents signing the pledge. What Chancellor Weber, are you most hopeful about? I know there's a lot of things to worry about and things that are uncertain, but what are you hopeful about going into 2021 and beyond?
Well, I'm most hopeful about our students. We have an incredible pool of talent that is really untapped. And the creativity and the passion to support their communities. I think it's really our responsibility to figure out how to, through education and training, harness that talent. And particularly because our student population is so diverse, and bringing that talent to the forefront to help solve some of these big society problems, right? There's so many things that needs to be addressed. And if you look at the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda, the whole issue about equity, and you look at technology where, a lot of times decisions are being made by very few people, mostly white males, in little conference rooms. How do we include more diversity just across all of the different sectors, where you have a more diverse voice helping to solve the problems in a way that's inclusive of all of our communities. So I'm very hopeful that with all the conversations that are going on, that we have a very promising future as we go down and live through this pandemic. I know we'll get through to the other end.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. One thing we were very excited about in February is the NACCE board voted to form a new committee devoted to equity, inclusion, and diversity. We have a full-time director of innovation and equity, our own Jeff Smith, who is also my co-host of our new podcast. So fun fact on that. But I think that you're right. We can't make the best decisions if we're not inviting everyone in a wide variety of perspectives to the table. So that's so important. Chancellor Oakley, what would you like to say to our 12 presidents and the people around California and the country that have joined us today? What closing message would you like to share as we're getting ready to actually do our formal signatures and celebrate with some very beautiful quotes that each of the presidents very thoughtfully submitted as a way to celebrate this special day?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to NACCE and to you and your entire team, Rebecca, for bringing everybody together and continuing to put entrepreneurship at the forefront of what we do as community colleges, as educators across the country. I had the pleasure of being there when NACCE was first launched and being one of the original signatories. So it's wonderful to see that this tradition continues to grow. And I want to thank and congratulate the signatories that we celebrate today, the presidents that are signing on to this commitment, and for bringing entrepreneurship to their colleges and to California. California, continues to be the home of entrepreneurship, and I think it's important that we continue to grow that tradition in California and to really not just help our students think about entrepreneurship and introduce them to entrepreneurship, but also to work within our own cultures, our own campus cultures. We need to continue to grow and innovate as colleges, and the entrepreneurial mindset is key to that. So I just very grateful to the presidents that are here today, to all the community college leaders and educators across the country who are doing the work that is going on now to help get our country through this pandemic and to lead in the recovery.
That's beautifully said, very heartfelt, and no doubt the leadership that both of you provide is truly needed, and during this time, it gives me and my colleagues and everyone at NACCE a lot of hope. So I would like to thank you both very much for your time and your leadership and your passion for higher education. And now we are going to turn to the part of the program where we have each of our presidents sign the President's Pledge for Entrepreneurship in February of 2021 as an early event, a precursor, if you will, to National Entrepreneurship Week. So I thank you all, and I will turn the program back over at this point.